Recording in progress.
So, hey guys, can you hear me?
Sounding good. Sounding good. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Man, thank you for doing this. We'll give people a few minutes to
Yeah, we
jump
still
in.
got time, yeah.
What time is it where you are?
It's 1 minute before 6 right now here in Germany. So
6 p.m. And
yeah.
that's on Friday?
Yeah, Friday
Okay.
evening. Yeah. But
You 6 hours, 6.
Fridays are usually long days for me, so yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Um, we'll also get into like your schedule and how you
Yeah.
do all the work you're doing, man. We'll talk about it. Everyone get in the room. We have the legend Michael Maas here. We'll wait a few minutes to get some people in,
Yeah.
and then
I
we'll get
just feel
going.
like my t-shirt all the time, like I need coffee and
Yeah.
so, it's like
Uh, yeah, that very very fitting because you got a couple Star Wars placements, right? So
yeah, I got some hanging here behind me, and yeah, but it's not. Yeah, but yeah. So that's
yeah. Do you only wear shirts of movies and TV shows that you have
no,
placements
no,
on
no.
instead?
But it's funny. A few years ago, we bought some like let's say Spider-Man T-shirts, fandom things, like I don't know, like Iron Man, and they were all too big for me. And now, after sitting like a few years in the studio, it's fitting now, So it's like
Yeah, yeah. It's
dad bod like,
the dad bod.
So yeah,
Um,
that's happening if you're sitting all the time in the studio. I just composed 2 tracks before, so I'm
oh
sitting,
wow.
but I just kind of like work anymore from Monday to Friday. So I try to keep it a little bit more healthier. No, but it's hard.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, it's hard being at the top. Everyone get in the room. We'll probably give them until about 5 minutes after to get in, get settled. If you are off camera or if you come off mic, this will be recorded. So just keep that in mind that you are basically waiving any rights to use your video or audio if you come off camera.
All music rights.
All music, yeah, waive all
Yes,
music rights.
yeah.
If you learn something here and you get a big placement, you owe Michael and me 20% of the placement. We won't take 50%, but
No,
20,
not really.
25.
No.
Bump it up to 25. Um,
Top political operates from DC, who's caught in the middle of a sex scandal between the president.
I think someone hit the mute button. So be careful. If you come in, you can unmute, but if you got some noise in the background, if you can just stay muted. And we'll have some time for like Q&A. We'll do like 15-ish, 20 minutes, 25, I don't know how many minutes of just learning more about Michael and his journey. And then I will open it up for whatever questions you have for him. So we'll give everyone a few more minutes to jump in. As you're jumping in, feel free to jump in the chat and toss where you are in the world, what you're looking to learn from here, where you are in your sync journey, whatever you wanna put in there. Actually, we got a question. Where you are in your sync journey, whatever you want. Deadline for the competition. I know it's today. What time is the deadline? For those who don't know, Michael is hosting a trailer music competition where you can join the competition, get some free sounds that you can use for your trailer track. That has to be 2 minutes. And the deadline is today or was today. Michael, what is the deadline for that?
It's anyone's time today at like midnight. So if you're sitting now in, I don't know, Los Angeles, it's Los Angeles time midnight.
Okay.
So we just start to check all those tracks over the weekend and probably gonna announce the winner on Monday. So we are pretty open for that. But if it arrives like, let's say tomorrow my time in Germany, like what is it? Like after 9 a.m., that would be midnight LA time. We don't accept any more submissions then after that. Like German time, 9 a.m. tomorrow, something. LA time, 0.00.
Yeah. So with contests, I've entered over 200 contests. In 2020, I entered over 200 contests. And the most confusing deadline is midnight because I don't know, is it midnight the morning of or the midnight the night before? So I always say, if you're going to do midnight, just say 11:59 p.m. And then everyone is really clear. So your deadline, if you're going to enter the trailer music contest, is 11:59 p.m. California PST time tonight, Friday, May 26th. So we'll give everyone one more minute to get in here, and we'll get going. And if you missed the competition, there is a trailer music competition that Michael is hosting with his Sync Music Business. Of course, and the contest ends at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time tonight. So if you can get in there, I'll find the link for the contest and I'll drop it in here. I'll do that and then we'll get started. Let me find, or Michael, if you have the link handy.
The link for the stream?
The contest.
Yeah. Just for the contest? Just a second. Sync, where's it here? syncmusicbusiness.com/sfx. So I'm just gonna share that in the chat here, yeah?
In the chat, yep.
This one.
And prizes are incredible.
Yeah, so first prize, you get featured on an Audiotech album. So Audiotech is my publishing company, worldwide mostly published by Warner Chappell Music. And so you get the music out to the industry, so what we are talking today about, that whole thing. So you can skip some years and get your music out to the industry directly, not on 5 years. Second prize is a free course for the Sync Music Business course. And the third prize gonna be a Twilight SFX pack we create especially for that contest. So no one owns it, just you, the winner, And that's pretty special because we hired some people to do some SFX for us. And no one has those SFX except that third prize winner, And maybe the others want to have that as well, but it's like, maybe someone want to have the third prize instead of the second, It's like,
yeah. I don't see the link in the chat here. If you can copy it here, I might have missed it.
It's in the chat. Oh, I wrote a direct message. Oh, I see it. No, I got it. Okay.
Ooh, and I see people coming in.
Now it's public. Yeah, to everyone.
There it is. There's a link. Okay, cool. Shout out to Mississippi, Isaiah. Shout out to Troy. Thank you for joining. Virginia Beach, DMV. Virginia Beach is sort of DMV. And M Mills, you're in Brazil. That's what's up. Chris, New York. Shout out to New York. Michigan, Troy. New York, Vicky. Dallas, Curtis. Rick, thank you for tuning in. North Carolina, Kashif. Thank you. Jake, Rick, Isaiah, LA. Representing, you're out there with the Trailer Music Libraries. Chicago, shout out to iPhone 150. I don't know if that's your name. Silver Star, thank you for tuning in. From Croatia, Connecticut, Jody, thank you for tuning in. We got Gaithersburg, DMV, Corey, thank you. Andreas, Stuttgart, Germany. I used to live there, so you're really close to Michael. I used to live in Stuttgart and Bremerhaven. DC, GMP, thank you for tuning in. Mac from New Jersey. We're gonna get started. With Michael Maas. For those who don't know, Michael Maas, I met him. I first heard about him July 2021. I know this because I rewatched the episode last night. There's a show called Mixing Night with Ken Lewis, where I do a segment every month about free plugins and things like that. And he had Michael Maas as a guest almost 2 years ago, July 2021. And Michael did a whole segment about trailer music. And I was like, what is this? And started studying trailer music in addition to sync licensing. And was asking Michael all kinds of questions. And I think I asked him too many, so he put this course together so that I could stop asking him questions, but really been learning from him over the last 2 years. And he graciously accepted the opportunity to come and share his journey with you. And he's worked on, I had to get the list of credits. It's better to say what he's not worked on, but he's done music for Westworld, Loki, Jurassic World, Nope, Violent Night, Kung Fu, Dune, Tenet, Disney, Strange World, Jurassic World, Dominion, Death on the Nile, Moon Knight, Halo, Reminiscence, Apex Legends, Candyman, Mulan, Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker, Tom Clancy's Division 2, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, Hobbs and Shaw. That's just a few, and not counting like the TV shows. I think 1 year he had over 300 placements. And I'm like, this is insane. So let's welcome to the stage the legend himself, Michael Maas, the trailer music boss. That is a name that Ken Lewis gave him, and I just stole it. Round of virtual applause.
Thank you so much.
The legend.
I didn't give that name myself. So one guy came to me and said, hey, you are so arrogant. You are calling yourself the trailer music boss. I said, that was Ken Lewis. It wasn't myself, giving me that name. So
yeah, but you should get some merch made and you should sell Michael Maas, trailer music boss shirts. Well, let's get into it, man. If you can just tell people, I know they heard a little bit if they showed up early, and thank you to everyone that showed up early, but tell a little bit about like your background, what got you into like trailer music, however far back you want to go.
Yeah, I got a crazy story to tell. So kind of like I started with 6 years with classical piano. So I come from a classical background, and did it till I was 16, I think. And my whole family wanted me to study classical composition, but I didn't have fun with that. At that time, I started to compose already my own piano tracks with, I don't know, like 14 or 15 something. So by coincidence, I was on a festival here in my SIP area called Heidelberg Open Air. It's a big school sound festival. And some women came to me say, hey, would you like to come to what is that called? To a boy group casting. And I said, I was 16, I said, yeah, why not? I had my girlfriend with me at that time. I said, yeah, why not? Let's check that out. So I was at that boy group casting and then was signed to that boy group for kind of like 3 years till I was 19 and was touring in whole Germany with that boy group. It was kind of like 99, 2000, 2001, that area around. And I was touring then in whole Germany. We had a video shoot in Los Angeles and, professional dance training and I don't know what else, and vocal coaching. And, it was crazy times. It totally different to what's going on today. We had such a huge studio and vocal engineer and I don't know what kind of engineers, but today you can do everything of that with a laptop or so, but it was just like crazy. I was a teenie. Then I left I left that group with 19 and then started to produce German pop music with a laptop. It wasn't very successful, to be honest. So with 21, I said typically German, okay, you have to learn something serious. You have to make some money. You kind of like never earned any money with your music and everyone is expecting that you make some money right now and can pay your bills by yourself, So I was learning a job. German is called a train conductor. So, and actually I was a train conductor till 2017. Full-time. Okay. That was my full-time job those days. And, but I started, how can I explain it? When I learned that job, we have to learn it, study 3 years. Okay. It's not only train conducting, it's everything around that train things, like mechanical things and what could happen if this happens, what could happen if that happens. You have all the responsibility for those people there in the train, So it's not that easy. And at that time, I totally stopped making music because I was so disappointed by music. And there was no success, and it was, I wouldn't say a hard time, but I decided to say, okay, I want to stop right now music and totally focus on a job, So I did it a few years. And then from one day to another, the creativity was exploding out of myself. I was like, okay, I want to build my studio again. So I had one empty room just full of trash, that kind of stuff. Took the trash out, painted everything. And I really don't like painting, painting walls, etc. So people who know me know what a big sign that is. And so I painted that room and was putting all that gear into it, like a really, really small PC. It was an AMD 0.86 gigahertz, not to compare with things today. That was 2013. I had a really cheap version of Contact. Then I had EWQL was one of my very first big VST libraries I had there. And and started to compose again. And with what? With piano music. Because that was from where I was coming from, from classical piano music. So I started to compose piano music again and was putting it out on Soundcloud and YouTube. And I had, people were really excited about that. And so by coincidence, I did something like trailer music, I think. And one guy came to me on SoundCloud and said, hey, that sounds like trailer music. And I was like, what is trailer music? What at all is trailer music? What is music for sync? What is music for licensing and library music? All that kind of stuff. And so while I was still a train conductor, I worked in shifts. And so I was working before the shift, after the shift, and And it was a pretty hard time because I worked almost every day, 10 to 12 hours as a train conductor. So I worked before that, after that, and always did music. So another day, a friend of mine showed me a CD in the car. We still had CDs those days. I think no one has that anymore. Maybe just the old school guys, mixtapes. And he showed me a CD of Two Steps from Hell. And I said, oh yeah, sounds nice. I think I do something pretty similarly. I mean, much more lower quality back those days. And so I said, yeah. So that was how I came into trailer music, by coincidence. A music channel was putting my music then up on YouTube. It's called, I think, Epic Music Vietnam or something like that. And Trailer Music World, actually, it was. And people said, okay, that sounds like trailer music. So sounds, but it was pretty worse sound, not that good sound. It was like not quantized, not a good production those days. But since then, I constantly worked in my studio every day. I cannot remember a day I didn't work in the studio. Just when I was on vacation. That's why I need coffee all the time. Kind of like. And so I worked my ass off, like crazy to get where I am right now, because it was that's the biggest mistake people are doing. They think it's not work. They think you get success from today to tomorrow or something like that. They think it goes pretty fast. In fact, it took me from 6 years till I was 33 till I had my very first trailer placement, which was then Spider-Man against Electro, something like that, So it took me almost 30 years to get there where I am right now,
Yeah.
And it was a lot of work, really a lot of work. But I was able to leave my job as a train conductor. I mean, I totally hated that job. It's not a fun job, to be honest. And so I do nothing else since 2017 then music for sync and music for media, and not only for trailers, for TV spots, for all kind of media, for synchronization to picture.
Yeah, you shared a lot there, and I'm going to try to touch on some of those points, going from like classical music to German pop, and then I think the turning point for you, which might be a difference, because you said 21, you said I got to do something to make money. 21 maybe in Europe is a different mindset, because 21 in America is like, oh, that's party. You can start drinking, you can go out.
Yeah.
You might be finishing up college. You're in between sort of like the college party into like becoming an adult. So you're still, a lot of people at 21 don't know what they want to do, and you were able to make that decision early. And then going from the train conductor, which is really, I really like that part of the story, because it reminds me, because I do work full time, and the problem I have is that I actually enjoy where I work. So you didn't enjoy where you work, so you're like, I got to get out of here as soon as possible. But I actually like where I work. I work at National Geographic, and there's some connections there I can make musically. But when you started making that transition, did you like think about getting like samples from the train? Can you go back to the train and get like some samples? Like, you should go back and get some of those.
Not at all. I try to avoid everything from the train.
Oh, you erase it from your mind.
And I didn't even start to sample. I think I started to sample kind of like maybe 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, since I create my own samples.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I would say the two main points that you really hit on was sharing your music, like not keeping it on your hard drive. You had mentioned, putting it up on Soundcloud and people finding it there. You had mentioned someone showing you a CD, Two Steps from Hell. So putting your music out there, and then you had talked about Epic Music, putting your music on YouTube, and then the consistency of being in the studio while working every day, finding that time, even after working a 12-hour day, knowing that when you get home, you're gonna be tired, hungry, you might not feel like doing music, but you have to commit to it. And it is it's like another job. And then the when you hit on the 6 years to get that first placement, even though it was, huge, Spider-Man is huge, that first placement. So when you started making that transition, how did you know, I know you heard the Two Steps from Hell album, but how did you know where to go to get trailer placements? How did you get the Spider-Man placement? Like, where did that come from?
Kind of like I didn't know where to go. It was like try and error. So I had some friends on Facebook which signed with a pretty new library called Really Slow Motion. They came out 2013 when I started with trailer music. So I connected myself on Facebook with the CEO, Arcos Gonzalez Lancharo, which we are pretty good friends still those days, on Facebook. And sent something like an application to him and said, hey, I would like to compose for you. He released his very first album, Cosmo Jenny, something it was called. And he said, yeah, maybe. And then a few weeks later, the music supervisor from Really Slow Motion came to me and said, hey, we got a first sound design album going on. He checked one, actually. And maybe try something like that. And I never did sound design trailer-ish things. So it was my very first time when I did sound design trailer stuff, big boom bam, drums, sound design effects, no orchestra, alarm sounds, everything compressed into a 1 minute 30 track or something like that. And I did 2 tracks which were signed to the album, and then one of them was placed almost immediately in the Spider-Man campaign. So that was kind of luck. A little bit of luck, a little bit of right track at the right time, with the right publisher, and the right music to the campaign. That album had 20 tracks on it, and my track was placed by coincidence, I would say, simply. And I was totally hyped. I still remember that day. I still have that poster here in my cabinet from Spider-Man. I'm just, hanging them down, hanging them up sometimes to get, a different view here. And I was totally hyped. I was sitting on a couch with my girlfriend at those days, now my wife. And I was totally on drugs a little bit, on totally crazy. My heart was pumping and I was sweating, was like, okay. And I still remember that feeling. I said, okay, now you had one placement. Now you want to have all the time placements, And how to achieve that, how to get all the time those kind of AAA Hollywood placements. And I didn't know that, how to get them. But what was on my plus side, I think, was that I was totally addicted to compose music, simply. So I never saw that as work. I was naturally wise, like people have breakfast or lunch or something. I was in my free time in my studio and did some music simply because I was so addicted to it, and I'm still addicted to it. But these days I understand a little bit more the process of business and music and all the other things. But it was like no one had to put me into the studio. It was the opposite. They had to put me out of the studio to get some social living or something, Yeah. And so I worked all the time before my shift, after the shift, the trailer music. I developed my skills. And maybe since 2017, so I started 2013 with production music, so-called. Production music is music for TV, or kind of media, or library music called, and trailer music is a part of production music, actually. So, I did, while I did those trailer things, I did TV production music on the side, which was like music fitting to background television, So when you're watching regular television, some shows like, I don't know, like Gold Diggers or Bushman in Alaska or stuff like that, put the mute knob, and that kind of music you are not listening anymore, to that. That's production music in the background. So I did trailer music and music for TV at the same time. And actually, that was a pretty lucky move because while we had Corona, all the movie campaigns were done. There were no trailers. There were no movies coming out. So if I would have only bet on trailer music, maybe I would be broke those days, and do another job or so. But I always did both things at the same time,
Yeah. And you actually said a lot there. I'll touch on some of those points. First was making that connection with the CEO of Really Slow Music. So for those listening and watching this, Sync, from what I found, lives mostly sync and trailer placements. You can make those connections mostly on Facebook and LinkedIn these days. That's where most of those opportunities and those connections live. So you connected with Really Slow Motion early on, which is great. And you were able to build that relationship, up with them and get that first placement. And then you said that you were addicted to composing music. So it's not really work for you.
No.
Which is, which is what we have to do, because at some point you're going to be getting, a lot of briefs and stuff coming in, and you're going to have to keep doing it. So you got to have that addiction, and it's not work. And, once you get it.
Yeah.
And then the way you talk about your first placement placement. I think you know, it's almost like, you know, when you find the lucky person in your life, it's like you'll always remember like your first. So we talk about Spider-Man, and it sort of reminds me, because I'm like at that spot right now where like I just had my first non-self-published album released last week on a Trailer Library that's owned by Trailer Rebel,
Yeah.
and then I have another
I
one
know
that
them.
just released
Yeah.
today.
Congratulations. They are
Thank you.
pretty big in Germany, you know.
Yeah,
Pretty good
yeah.
library.
So another one was released today that's neoclassical as part of Amadeus. So hearing your journey and learning where you've been, and it's sort of like I see the future in you. I see my future in you. So I'm like, how do I get there? And just knowing those numbers, you know, 6 years, 10 years, it's not an overnight thing. One thing I want to ask, after that Spider-Man trailer, how long was it before you got the second one? Was it right away? Did it start rolling in, or was it like?
No, that was really a huge gap. It took, I mean, 2013, I think it was Spider-Man, or 2014. So it took me just a year to get the very first trailer, big Hollywood trailer placement, you know. Yeah. And then the second one was a year afterwards when Chappie came out. That Chappie movie about that robot who is, you know, getting alive. It's called CHAPPEI, Chappie. And it was a TV spot actually for that movie campaign. So those ad campaigns are not only trailers, they can also be like TV spots for those kind of movies, you know, in television. So it's not always trailers, it can be, you know, TV spots as well.
Yeah,
for the big movie campaign.
A little bit, how many, let's say for a blockbuster film, how many opportunities are there for a trailer for like one film? How many placement opportunities? How many?
You mean
what are the different ways?
How many ad campaigns are out there for one movie? I mean, there are so many different trailers and so many different TV spots in different countries actually. So let's say there's coming out, I don't know, Tune, the second one, okay? So maybe got an international trailer, then you probably got a UK trailer, maybe a US trailer, which is maybe different to the international trailer. Then you got some featurettes, which is like behind the scene trailers, you know. And then you got multiple TV spots, sometimes per country. So there are many different opportunities, but it's if you understand the concept behind those trailers, how to get into a trailer, it's not that easy to get into a trailer because there's such a huge how can I say that in English? There's such a huge way till you get your music into a trailer. I can give you some examples of that. Okay, so the usual way how you get your music into a trailer is you compose music for a trailer music library, which is focused on publishing trailer music. Okay, that's the first step. Those guys, trailer music library, is sending your music to a trailer house. A trailer house is cutting movie trailers. Mostly in Los Angeles or London, something like that. But Los Angeles, New York are, you know, the main spots for trailers. Yep. So, okay, that trailer house, maybe they are sitting like 10 to 20 different editors, which are cutting different trailers. Okay? For Dune, the second one, okay? Let's say the second campaign for Dune, okay? But it's not only that trailer house cutting those for that movie. There are multiple trailer houses cutting different trailers and TV spots for that movie. Okay, and every trailer cutter is choosing different kind of music. So one campaign, different trailer houses which are cutting different kind of trailers and TV spots, and at the end they get their trailers and TV spots in some kind of control group, which is like people from everywhere in the country and every age and every job, you know, etc. And they pick then their favorites. And the movie studio is then saying, okay, we are releasing this kind of trailer and this TV spot and this one, you know? So it's a lot of luck getting your track into a campaign because that election process and that final process by getting a confirmation that your music is in a trailer is such like playing bingo a little bit, you know? But it's math. So I'm not good at math. You know, I was never good at math, but I said, okay, the more music I get out in the industry, the higher the chance is to get my music into trailers. And I think those days it's now over 200 or 300 trailers or something. So, and they are constantly coming in, but just because I did so much work in the past, so you can make now a living from the music you did in the past. So I always recommend to people, see your music as a kind of stocks interest, You are investing time in your music stocks. The music is always online with the library, with the publisher. It's always available, your lifetime, even afterwards, of that. So the more stuff you get out, equally to the more stocks you got on the market, you can make more money. The chance is higher to make money out of that, And actually, I got right now, I think 1,400 tracks out in the industry.
Wow.
Which is like music for TV and music for trailers, which is like almost the same for me,
Yeah.
So that's a little bit my philosophy behind it.
1,400 tracks, just so that's like having, I like when you talk about like diversification, similar to stocks. I watch a lot of investment. I have some good friends over at Earn Your Leisure, which is a great investment platform, and they talk about diversification in stocks. So when you talk about diversification in music, and you had mentioned it earlier, how when the pandemic hit, you couldn't put all your let's just saying we're putting all your eggs in one basket. You couldn't do that for trailers. You had to start branching out when the pandemic hit, because the trailer campaigns were sort of drying up. They didn't know, people weren't going to the movies, obviously. So the industry was in a weird state for a couple of years. So you were still doing things outside of trailers during those years. When you talk about diversification, what about the actual music that you make? How diverse is the trailer music space, the sync licensing space? Are you working with collaborators, other musicians, singers? Are you only doing like cinematic Spider-Man, superhero trailers? Are you doing sort of like the soft piano? So how diverse is the actual trailer music space?
Yeah. So I'm constantly collaborating with Ken Lewis on a project called Obscene Stealers, which is like high quality pop meets trailer cinematic things, and we get it out for sync. But I'm also working right now, for example, for Universal with a rapper from the US, and doing with him trailer hip hop things, but for Universal directly. Then on the other side, I'm working with a UK guy from the pop area for BMG, which is developing pop tracks, and I remix that into the trailer world. So I got really every day something else to do. And the other day, I'm composing music for US television. And then on the other day, I'm composing music for German television, something like that, And so that diversifying process is big, I would say, because there's constantly something else on my table, but that keeps my head fresh. If I would do only trailer music for one library or in one style, it would get pretty much boring. Pretty fast boring then, So my philosophy behind it is trying to do every day, even multiple times on a day or per week, something different, So for example, this morning I composed an epic production music track for television, for shows like Naked and Afraid and stuff like that, which would be fitting in kind of, Castaway style, stuff like that. This afternoon I did Underscore Tension for another library. I'm music supervising also, by the way, for that music for that library. And tomorrow I'm gonna have a free weekend, Saturday, Sunday, which means I'm in the morning still working for my own publishing company, listening to submissions they send to me and picking composers there. And on Monday I'm working probably again for BMG. And so that's constantly changing what I'm doing, but just because I want to keep my head fresh. Because I realized when I'm working on one project all the time and nothing else than that, it's like, okay, I'm like, oh, yeah, I could do another job or something, Stuff like that.
Yeah, I like it. How do you, can you break down just a little bit, how are the, and how's the income when you, let's say you land a trailer, sync, can you break down a little bit? How do you get paid? Whether it's upfront, whether it's you got to wait, how long do you have to wait for royalties to come in? I know you're in Europe, so it might be different than the United States. If you can break that down a little bit.
It's everywhere the same. It doesn't matter. The main income as a composer is usually the TV royalties from your PRO, like BMI, SCAP, and CSAC. But you don't get royalties from trailers. Okay, so cinema trailers doesn't pay royalties. That's not existing. But a good thing about trailer music is it's running in television as well all the time. So that trailer music can generate for yourself royalties from your PRO, which is mostly the biggest income you got. The more music you got out there, you can make more, money simply from your PRO. Then when you hit a trailer, when you get a trailer, you get a sync license. It's not covered with royalties, so I get the sync license for that. It's like a one-time fee. And that, let's talk about the US, that usually starts at around 5 figures. Let's say a TV spot for Spider-Man or something could have been something like 15K or 10K. And it really depends. Streaming is lower. So if you sync or license something to Disney Plus or so, I cannot tell you the exact prices because I'm not allowed to tell that, But I would say something around, 4 figures, If you hit an international trailer and only your track, only your music is in that trailer, so that's important as well, it could go up to 6 figures, And if it's custom, it should be definitely 6 figures, but it's more sort of like very high 5 to 6 figures. But this depends as well if you are maybe a famous pop artist. I mean, famous pop artists getting it into a trailer can get you easily a sync fee of like $1 million or something. Yeah. So it depends. Are you just a trailer, just a trailer production music composer? No one really knows you out in the industry maybe, but no one else, who's working outside of the industry. Then you get those usual fees. If you're maybe already like a famous artist, and maybe someone is representing you like Position Music or Lyric House or someone like that, they get usually a little bit more than that. But main income is, to break that down, royalties from your PRO for getting your music into television, etc. And the second income is synchronization or sync license. It's a one-time fee. And you can have other income sources as maybe streaming and monetizing music from YouTube. I mean, I never would underestimate that. I know guys which get from YouTube like 5 figures a month because their music get picked for some kind of fan trailers or so, And in fact, I know one, I won't name them, but I know a production music label which makes the most out of YouTube from having like maybe 100,000 tracks on the market, and they get used all the time on YouTube, on simple fan videos or something like that. Or maybe someone is shooting a drone video and using their music. So it gets directly recognized by the system and then monetized, for the master right owner.
And we have a question here from Andreas about sort of trailerization. I don't know if you do any trailerizations, but let's say, we hear all these trailers all the time. Black Panther had a mashup between a Bob Marley cover and a Kendrick Lamar song. You might hear like a Beyonce trailerized, or, they're doing a lot of hip hop now these days, especially in the summer blockbuster. You might hear, Biggie and Bone Thugs. I heard that on like Transformers. So how does that work? I don't know if you deal on that side of things. Mm-hmm. If, let's say, you have a trailerization, how does that sort of revenue break down?
I do those. Usually trailer library is coming to you, or maybe even a trailer house if you got really good connections in it, but that's not that usual. Usually a trailer libraries come to you and say, hey, we got a custom here that's called custom. We need a trailerization for Mission Impossible. We need something like maybe piano and just emotional stuff, 30 seconds, or maybe we need something for a trailer, longer length. And then you say yes or no. But usually you won't get paid for that upfront, unfortunately. So it's really like a big bingo play, like playing lottery or something, So you get on a custom, they say, hey, could you maybe customize this track? Maybe they are sending you even the track then, or you have to download that from another source, from a legal source. And then I would check the BPM, the key of the track, getting it into my DAW session, align everything to the grid, and then I would start to customize that with, typically trailer things. That would be a little bit complicated to explain right now, but let's say with trailer things, simply trailer drums and trailer sounds. Then you send it to the trailer library, they send it to the trailer house, and maybe they are interested. If they are interested, they request stamps, group stamps. That's a good sign. If someone is requesting group stamps, it's a good sign. It just means they're cutting with that, because they cannot cut with the full stereo mix usually. They always need the group stem separated into drums, SFX, strings only, things like that, so they can work better with the dialogue simply. Then maybe you won't get a confirmation, or maybe you will never hear again from them back. That's the usual process. You never hear back again from them, but you maybe discover the track on a trailer on YouTube then, on the original trailer. So usually you can find it out first. You maybe know the campaign. Some people even don't tell you the campaign it is for. I mean, Mission Impossible is pretty easy to guess, dun 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 dun. That makes sense. But I had some cases people told me, hey, could you please remix the famous what was it? Exorcism theme. That tubular bell theme, dun, 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 stuff like that. Said, okay, what movie is it? They said, we don't know. So yeah, I did that. But you can guess. There are movies coming out which are related to exorcism. Stuff like that. And again, then you maybe discover that on YouTube, or maybe they tell you directly it's confirmed. But usually that takes a little bit of time till then someone is coming back to you saying, hey, it's confirmed. Usually you find it first on YouTube on that. So customs is actually, how can I tell it in English? But it's like, I don't know if that's the exact sentence, but it's horsework. You know what I mean? It's a little bit like, it's messy. You never know what's going on with that. It's only one pitch you are doing. Maybe other composers are doing them as well for the same library. Multiple libraries with 5 composers. Guess that up. So the editor has maybe 100 tracks to choose from. So the chance to get into a custom is even much, much smaller than getting your music into a trailer. But if you are good in what you're doing and you can do that pretty fast, the chances are definitely higher. But to be honest, I never had a custom. I never won a custom yet. Instead of one that was Battlefield Apocalypse, but I was the only guy on it. So I didn't have any competition. So, I'm doing it now for 10 years and never won a custom. I was pretty close to that. But it's like the biggest lottery game at all.
Thank you, Andres, for that question. So yeah, if you want to throw a question in the chat, I will open it up now. Or if you want to come off mute. Marshawn has asked a question. To get trailer placements, is it easier to submit to libraries or to network yourself to get trailer placements?
Yeah. So that's a thing. That's a really good question. So I would say, and that's my experience, trailer editors and trailer houses don't trust composers. Because they think, and that's mostly the case, composers don't know everything about the music rights, like master rights, like writer share, did I sample something? Do I need to clear that before, etc.? And that's what a trailer library is everything doing beforehand of that. So usually it's the safest way for you and the most logical way to submit to a trailer library. They have also all the connections to the trailer houses, because no trailer house gonna answer you simply by, hey, nice to meet you, Marcus Manderson. We are so busy, but yeah, let's check. Maybe we take one of your tracks. That's not how that industry is working. Trailer houses got a system, a music system, where everything is tagged, and usually that kind of tagged music is from a music library, a publishing company. Not necessarily a trailer library, but mostly trailer libraries. But that music is already tagged by the publishing company. So when someone is putting in hit words, like in Google, let's say, big-ish trailer music sounds like Africa, stuff like that, maybe a little bit. They can find it directly and work with it. And they got maybe already stems for that. So I wouldn't recommend to reach out to trailer houses, or maybe, if you got a good connection to a music supervisor, But that's the hardest way to get placed. Because first, people think you don't got any clue about music rights, and that's 99%, the case, what if you deliver them a track which you don't own the master rights to that? Maybe you sampled something, they don't recognize it. They place it in a trailer campaign, and the movie studio gets sued, aka the trailer house gets sued, aka the trailer, you get sued at the very ending with I don't know how many million, and at the very ending. So yeah, to make it short, better deliver that to a trailer library.
Yeah, and actually, I'll add on to that one other thing. And I'm disclaimer. I'm like a year and a half in trailer space as opposed to Michael, who's been doing it for 10 years. Marshawn, for that question. Also, when you work with trailer libraries, the albums that I just had released last week and this week, the libraries told me that we're going to send this out to our email list, and they have a list of hundreds of music supervisors and trailer houses that they blast the music to. So instead of you focusing on trying to get it to one trailer house or one supervisor, if you send it to a library, they can send it out to, the click of a button. Literally, they can send it out to hundreds of libraries that they've already had that network with, in some cases for decades. And people will listen to the new stuff that they have coming out. So it's almost like that diversification. You send it to one, library, and they can blast it for you instead of you building those relationships one by one. We got another question from Isaiah. When you get a call from someone to consider a project, what are some of the things you do to make sure you want to commit to the project? So how do you decide you're going to work on this trailer as opposed to this other one, or this TV sync placement, or you're going to work on this library project? How do you make those decisions?
So I'm working not directly on trailers, just saying, Usually it's like that a trailer library or a production music library is reaching out to me over email, sending me briefings. Hey, Michael, would you like to work on hip-hop trailer-ish trailer things with Black Press or someone, or maybe DWH or so, stuff like that. I say, okay, let's check my time. And for me, it's a little bit easier these days because I know those libraries. I know they're performing pretty good. I don't have to guess. At the start of your career, it's a little bit more complicated. You never know if a library is good. You never know where music gonna land. But with the time and the experience you got, you can minimize that risk more and more and say, okay, I'm going to work just for that kind of library or this library because they perform pretty good, And you learn much, much more about the music business at all then. And know, okay, when I work for Universal, BMG, and Warner, it's probably safer than working for an independent library because they don't got that huge network like Universal, BMG, and Warner got, stuff like that. But if I would be a starter or maybe in the middle of, progressing as a trailer or composer at all, I would check their webpage definitely first, and check how are they sub-published. Because let's say that library is not performing pretty good in their own country, like maybe the UK or US, but they're like pretty good sub-published by famous sub-publishers, let's say the library is called Marcus Manderson Music. No one knows you really at the moment, but you're sub-published by Universal Music, which means all your music gets through Universal to their clients, You're using the clients from Universal Music. That's a good sign. Some libraries pay production fees, which are also called upfronts, but usually they recoup that again. So it's something like a loan, They recoup that usually from future fees you get in again. It's also a good sign if they get paid, but it's not necessarily a thing which means you should only work for them, because you always have to recoup that money. And a few libraries give you money without recouping anything. That's, not that common. But a good sign is good publishing, simple. And talking to people which probably already worked with them and getting their experience, because it's all a communication thing. No one want to work with a library which is like messy in communication or don't get maybe feedback good to the people or so. There are many factors, and I think for everyone it's different, what's good or bad. But for me, most important would be the publishing. How are they performing? How are they represented by maybe a bigger publisher also?
Andreas has a question. He said, could you make a living of your 1,400 TV tracks only without trailers? Andreas got their first 50 tracks in exclusives right now, and they don't expect any results for the next 2 to 3 years, which is a good expectation. But could you just make a living from only your TV tracks, or can someone just make a living only from TV tracks and not trailers?
Yeah, easily. So I don't count even the money for trailers, which you never know if it's coming in or not. That's just guessing. But TV royalties and TV tracks and that kind of stuff, that's running all the time in television. You can track that with software online, software like TuneSat or maybe Trackpoint.io or Beamit. So you upload your music into that system and you can see where your music is running. So you can guessing, okay, there's money coming in. But let's say it like that. Let's say your television royalties are growing since 5 years all the time. There's gonna be a point where it's maybe stagnating, not growing anymore, but you can at least guess, okay, it won't be that much less anymore than that if you constantly feed on the market. That's what I did, So I don't tell you how much I make with TV royalty music, but I can tell you I make easily five times more than I earned before in a job as a train conductor per year. So that's totally ridiculous. But so TV royalties and TV production music is like, like a golden digger thing. It's like, how can I say that? It's like totally worth it. Even it takes a little bit of time. Let's say you start right now with TV production music for TV background, etc. Then it takes maybe 3 to 5 years till you see serious numbers from there. Let's say the first 5 figures. My first 5 figures was 2017 was 12K, something like that. And I was totally overwhelmed because I never expected that. My first check from BMI was $4. I said, okay, that's not worth it, but let's go on. It's fun, And that was 14, and 3 years later, it was from $4 to 12K. And then it was, constantly growing. And so definitely worth it. I think most people don't know how much money you can make with television royalties or any kind of, publishing royalties.
Yeah. Isaiah asked for someone who wanted to get into sync today. So if you can switch your mind to someone that's just getting into sync today, not like 2 years ago, 5 years ago, what would be some tough love, encouraging advice you would give to them? Someone just starting out today, sync licensing day one.
Yeah, 3 words: sync music business. Take my course, so you're gonna learn that. Not just joking. I mean, it all starts with music, So music is always first. And that's a good question. I would try to get my music also out on social media platforms, something like SoundCloud, YouTube, Facebook. Biggest mistake people are doing is that they wait too long till their music is great. So I know some people which put their music out after 5 years maybe. So they started 5 years ago and now they're putting their music out. So they have a huge gap between those 5 years, which you maybe already connected and networked to other people, So I was getting my music out directly, even if it wasn't the highest quality in the world. I didn't realize it at the time. At the time for me it was high quality, but today when I listen back to my music from 2013, it was like a little bit crappy,
Yeah.
But that gave me the chance to get better and getting feedback from other people, and getting feedback also from maybe some fans or so, Some people really love your music. Some people probably gonna hate it, but you get feedback. You get something back. You're not sitting alone in your studio composing for yourself. No one hears it. That's not the purpose of making music, Use social media. It's so easy, much easier than in my times those days where I had to send out CDs to publishers and getting heard. So use social media to your advantage. Get it out to the industry, like, maybe your forum, connect to people. But there's no way around to constantly work on yourself, on your music. But in terms of learning content, those days, there's so much stuff out on YouTube. Little bit dangerous sometimes, maybe, because not everything what's on YouTube is great. But you can learn so much things from YouTube, from online courses like my course, Sync Music Business, or maybe other courses like the Trailer Music course, from Evan and other people. So that kind of stuff saves you years, because people teach you things they learned over the last 10 years with many placements, hopefully. So you avoid the beginner mistakes, which cost me like almost 5 years. So it cost me minimum 5 years till I was like almost serious in the business with constantly jobs without any money, by the way. But I would look out for maybe courses which teach you that kind of stuff, learning content, simply. Getting out to the industry, get out your stuff to social media, connect to people, go to production music awards, production music conferences, sync conferences, learn from there. So it's all a long way to go but that's the way it works simply, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are
So
no
definitely-
shortcuts. There are really no short. I mean, there are shortcuts if you learn from people which are already experienced, you know.
Yeah, I think the big thing, one thing to note about courses is just make sure you do your research before you dive in on a course or pay for a course to know who you're learning from.
Yeah.
When the pandemic hit, I think we started seeing a lot of people
Yeah.
talking and teaching, but not necessarily doing. So when you can learn from someone like Michael Maas or Ken Lewis, people who have been in the industry who are getting placements, as opposed to people who maybe they got placements 10 years ago, but they're not getting placements today. They're teaching based on what they know from 10 years ago, and that's not necessarily relevant to today. So when you are seeing people getting placements still, like Michael Maas, and I just dropped the link in the chat where you can get 30% off of the course. Thank you, Michael, for sharing that discount. That will be in existence until June 9th. So you have a couple of days if you want to dive in and look at it. That discount code will be available. Marshawn asked, when composing a trailer album, how long should the tracks be? Marshawn, in the actual course, you get to see Michael Maas create 3 different types of tracks. I think he creates a tension underscore track, he creates like a piano track, and then he creates a trailer track. And they're all generally the same length. And I'll let Michael answer how long they should be.
And a rock track, by the way, also.
And a rock track, yeah. And
so,
he does it in like 30 minutes. It's like insane. I rewatch those segments all the time.
Yeah. So a sync music track, so a music for media, you know. I call that golden rules. The best length for a syncable track is usually 2 minutes, because do people listen to 4-minute tracks? No, they don't do that. Okay, people don't have the time to listen to 2-minute tracks. So usually it's like that. A TV editor or a trailer editor is listening to a track 30 seconds or something like that, skipping, checking the different areas, and that maybe goes to 2 minutes, maybe 2 minutes 30. So my golden rules are I do something around 2 minutes and 2 minutes 30, but 2 minutes is totally fine. Okay, so if you're composing an album of 12 tracks, I would do 12 times 2 minutes, something around that ballpark. It can also be a little bit longer, but I had some composers sending me tracks which were like 4 minutes long. I said, okay, that's 2 tracks already. So you can save yourself time, and you can compose more tracks in a time. So if you do 1 track 4 minutes, that takes you longer than 2 tracks 2 minutes, you know? So you got more output. So I wouldn't go above 2 minutes. That's totally fine. 12 tracks, 10 tracks, maybe minimum. If you do a trailer music album, it's very important. I did mostly full trailer music albums in the past. That's my main work, kind of like. It's important. I would separate a trailer music album in 4 categories, maybe. 3 tracks, that kind of genre. You know, you have 1 genre in that album. Let's say hybrid orchestral trailer. Then separate them in maybe 3 more emotional, 3 more action-based, 3 more mysterious, dark breathing something, and 3 more maybe totally out of the pace, something like that, you know. So you make sure that your album doesn't sound, every track sounds like the other track, you know. So that's something I do all the time. And when I'm done with the album, I listen back again to all tracks, you know, like then you have 1 picture after that. And then I'm still adjusting some tracks. Maybe some tracks are starting the same way, and then I rearrange a little bit. Maybe some final climax, you know, and 2 of the tracks are sounding very similar, so I changed that. So after composing that full album of 12 tracks and putting that into some kind of subcategories, I still adjust those tracks to each other at the very ending. So when you get something out to the industry and to the audience, you make sure it's done in the most best way you were able to do at that time, you know. And I'm like, I do an album, I listen to that, I hate it instantly when it's done, I don't like it anymore. And then maybe 6 months after that, I re-listen to that with a little bit of distance then and say, okay, this album was great, this album was really garbage, I don't like it, you know. And but here's the difference. Music for sync and media is not necessarily something done for a listening audience. You know, it's similar to maybe a soundtrack album. Soundtracks are done for the movie. Some tracks are fitting better for the listening purpose, you know, for the audience out there. Stuff like Hans Zimmer, you know. And but the first step should be, it should be syncable. That's the most important thing. on a trailer album. Syncable and best sound at all. Live recorded. Directly.
Yeah.
Pay it out of your own pocket, like,
Yeah.
joking,
For you, how do you sort of balance and manage your schedule? Like, I know you said you've made like 2 tracks already this morning.
Yeah.
Are you doing I wake up at 3 a.m. every day? Is that what you're doing? Drinking coffee and
No.
you're by noon you have 12 tracks done. What is sort of your workflow schedule? I know you have a vacation. You said you're taking a break this weekend. So enjoy that.
Actually, I'm taking very soon a break of 2 months. So
Wow.
that's hard to achieve then. So I have to pre-work something. I start pretty late, actually. I start to compose like maybe 10, 11, more like 11 a.m. in the morning. And do maybe already before some office work or answer some emails. Usually I'm getting into my studio here and checking emails, what's going on, and structuring my day a little bit more, check what was running of my music, in television yesterday to push myself a little bit, because then, hey, I did something maybe 3 weeks ago, it was published three weeks ago, and it's running on television. Hey, I got more fun today to work on something, then. Start to compose at 11. When it's a production music track, it's something like maybe 2 or 3 hours. I call that one session. Then I do a small break. I don't eat so much at lunchtime or afternoon, because then I get tired. I just eat something really, really small. Do a short break of maybe 30 minutes. Play with my daughter, or, talk to my wife. Some things are getting, a fresh head again. And then I go back to the studio, like let's say 1 p.m. and work like today on a second track, maybe, if it's production music as well, like to maybe 4 to 5 p.m. So I separate it into smaller sessions. But I'm just pretty fast, because I do nothing else since 10 years. So doing a production music track like that takes me maybe 2 to 3 hours. I did today 1.5 hours. And then when that day is done, I check how are the deadlines for the next days, or maybe few next weeks, and structure my day already for the next day. So I know what I do the next day already, almost. Because there's always something coming in between. Maybe your accountant want to have an answer for something, or, tax agent or something like that. And so I pre-structure a little bit my day before I go to bed, And I try to finish my day at 5 p.m., 4 p.m. I mean, that's now something different today. But my working day, I like to spend time with my family simply, So I'm not 20 anymore, spending 24 hours in the studio. Yeah. So it's a little bit more work-life balanced. Also saying I'm having the weekend free is not as usual as a self-employed composer. As I was working on that game, by the way, that Formula 1 Manager, I worked like 14 days without a break. So it really depends on the project. But usually 11 a.m. I start and finish like 5 latest.
Cool. I know we had it scheduled for an hour. I don't know how much time you have on your schedule. But if anyone has any more questions, throw it in. I don't think we can have a conversation these days about anything without the elephant in the room, which is, of course, AI. So what are your thoughts on artificial intelligence taking over? I know there's been some conversation with AI studying mostly production music libraries like Pond 5 and Artlist and things like that, and analyzing the tracks there. It hasn't come over to sort of the custom and the trailer stuff yet, or to the higher end sync libraries. Yeah. But what do you think about AI? And to some extent, I know some of us use AIs. I believe like Logic Drummer, that I believe that has some AI. Isotope like Ozone and Neutron and some of those things use AI to analyze your track and create channel strips and settings. But in general, what are your thoughts on sort of the AI for creating music and things like that? Yeah, so in terms of composing, I'm not fearing that much yet. But AI is learning exponential, like much faster than a human being. So what I can tell you already, I checked some programs, some composing programs, and try to make some things with that. If you are releasing solo instrument music, so maybe solo piano, solo guitar, and those kind of things which are pretty easy to copy, those gonna be maybe the genres which gonna be taken over by AI first. Because I was able to create some pretty decent piano tracks with AI. I didn't necessarily thought they are
great for publishing, but you definitely could put them up on Pond5 or those kind of royalty-free audio jungle lower quality libraries. I call them lower quality because if you check those platforms, it's usually not the highest quality. So AI is at the moment just learning from those royalty-free platforms. Pond5, Audio Jungle, they are the very first libraries which opened their contracts to AI machine learning. I just saw that Universal also is doing a joint venture now with AI in terms of relaxing music. But what's relaxing music? You put like a big reverb on top of that, wash it away, and you could almost relax even on metal music, washed away with reverb, So I'm feeling not that much, but as a self-employed entrepreneur and as a composer, you always have to check the market, what's going on. And I'm doing that every day. I'm watching every day TV spots, trailers, and that kind of thing. So we have to be aware that there's AI out there. And what's a fact is we cannot hold it back. There's no chance that we can hold back AI from learning. And I like to compare it with the past. So when the first DAW came out, people said, hey, it's cheating composing with the DAW because real composing is working with a console, recording everything live and getting it into a master tape and something. So then there was autotune coming out, and people said, hey, we don't need any real singers anymore. You have autotune right now. And there are still singers out there. So now is AI coming out, and it's definitely in the same pace as industrial revolution, I think. We're going to see that in 5 to 10 years. It's going to help a lot in all kind of categories in the world, in every job, not only music, in all kind of life situations, like medicine things, like maybe curing cancer, that kind of stuff, etc. But in terms of music, if you check music, there are many patterns going on. And patterns are things AI can learn. But my guess to that, there's a little bit more than patterns on music. I know that my music is coming out of, I don't know where it's coming out, but I'm not a machine. My music is existing because of my past, of my experience, of my emotions, of what kind of music I was listening to as I was a kid, maybe stuff like that. And you don't have to feel emotions to compose good music, but I got a feeling that if you got emotions, you can do that differently. So they're gonna be AI, definitely AI music in some kind of places like maybe lo-fi, piano, etc., etc. But I don't think that composers gonna be obsolete in the future. It's gonna be a together thing. You can use AI also to your advantage at the very ending. And I don't think AI gonna replace TV music at all. Like streaming is not replacing television at the moment, the second fear of the most composers. It's gonna be a one-on-one together, more like that. So, and it doesn't make sense to fear about those things because you cannot change them. So why would you fear all the time about it? So I would more check that market, how it's developing, and adjust yourself to that, simply. But I don't think that AI gonna replace composers at all. I don't think so. We are more than patterns and machines.
We are. And speaking to that, in the course, what I really like when you got into the trailer productions lesson or module, usually when I see people on YouTube, doing trailer music, they show their DAW and it's like 500 tracks, or their template is, every string library ever. And they go to create a string part and it's like 30 strings layered together. And you go to create this track and you're like using maybe 1 or 2 string libraries, 1 or 2 percussion patches. And I'm like, it sounds incredible. And I'm like, how is he doing this? Can you talk about like maybe some of your string, how do you go about finding the sounds that you're using? We know some of the great libraries out there, Spitfire Audio, Keep Forest, Heaviosity. How do you choose which ones are going to be perfect for the track you're working on? And then how do you decide like that's enough? Like you don't need to layer 7 or 8 or 9. How do you go about that?
So I got to totally different philosophy than most trailer composers. Most trailer composers are telling you, oh, you need to layer like hell, and then, got 50 string libraries and 5,000 brass libraries, and I don't know what else, like 20 choirs, and it's not like that. A game changer for me was Valhalla Shimmer. It's a reverb, and pretty cheap for $50 or something, because what's Hollywood? It's a big audience sound, and it simply sounds like 10,000 instruments. And by having already a big reverb on all of your instruments, I put them all on an insert, gonna make the sound much, much bigger and wider. But be careful if you put, it's like that golden frontier. If you put too much on top of that, it just sounds like washy. If you put too less on top of that on your instruments, it sounds too dry, and it doesn't sound anymore like trailer music. It sounds more like neoclassical, close mic, stuff like that. But you can check that on actual trailer music and see how much reverb they use, etc. So it's like that. Then VST instruments. Instead of layering 10 VSTs, which are then sounding great together and big, I try to use one VST library which sounds already big. Which is maybe done for trailer music, or is like a huge setup simply. So for example, for staccato strings, I don't use 10 solo violins or something. 10 solo violins VSTs. I use VSTs which are maybe then a setup of already 10, 8, 6, something like that, more strings in a patch already together. And with all those years, I discovered special VSTs, mostly I am only using on the market in that combination together, which is serving what I need, like low brass, monster low brass, which is like filling the room, Then low legato strings, viola strings, violin strings, all from different patches, but which are sounding great together. The same with drums. I use mostly Damage 2 for epic trailer drums, because, I bought Damage 2 and never checked another preset than the first one. I opened the first one, played it, said, okay, that's what I need. I never checked the others. Totally honest. I never checked the other presets. Just the first one. Okay, that's what I need. Sounds great. Boom. That's my sound. So I developed my own sound. And I'm using mostly maybe 50 audio channels. And that's already a lot to get the big trailer music. It's more about knowing what kind of VSTs do I need to use that it sounds big? And they already start huge from the beginning. So you don't have to layer them, because when you layer, you get later a bigger mixing issue. Things are phasing each other out. You have to mix more. And that's another thing then, on that.
Yeah.
But it's more minimalism sounding big.
Yeah. And again, go back and check out the discount on the course, because in the course there's a great mixing and mastering segment. There are two separate modules in the course, and you can learn how Michael goes about mixing and mastering, how he does the stem breakdowns, the versioning, where you can have a 30-second version, 60-second version. He goes over all of that. There is, you did mention the reverb, the cheat code for having the reverb. Thank you, M. Mills, for sharing the Valhalla Shimmer. Something similar to Valhalla, there's one called FAC Altezza, another great sort of epic reverb. There's one called Eventide Black Hole. So these all do similar things, like just these huge reverbs. It sounds like you're in a canyon. So make sure you check that balance. And of course, in the course, you can see it. Michael used some of that with Valhalla. There's a question from Marshawn. I think we'll end with this one. Well, actually, there's two questions. I'll start with the second one first. Any thoughts about free VST? Any copyright issues if placed in movies? I'm guessing if you use like free plugins and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, when a VST is free, you got usually an Euler in there, which is like that license thing. Just because it's free, it doesn't mean you get copyright issues with that. When someone is selling a VST for free, that's usually not a problem in terms of trailers or something like that. Check the Euler, what the Euler is saying, but it's that PDF in that VST which says you can use the VST for this kind of purpose and this kind of purpose. But it doesn't make sense to exclude things from the usage of the VST because it's for free. So for free can be good, but remember, you pay for what you get. So if you get something for free, usually it's not that the best one. It's good to exercise, but to get that big Hollywood sound, I don't have any library that's for free. Because
I do, and I'm going to go against something you just said.
yeah.
Uh, any free thing from Keep Forest is insane. It's
Oh yeah, I mean
incredible.
that's yeah. Is there
Like
something
Keep
for
Forest,
free from them? Okay.
they have Ferrum free.
Oh yeah.
But like you just mentioned, I think the free version of Ferrum, there's something in the agreement that says you can't use it for commercial things. There is a way around it where what people have done is you might, if you send it to something and it lands something and you get some income from it, just purchase the full version of it. So they have like a free, but Keep Forest, anything free from them is incredible. I do know, Spitfire Audio releases some free stuff. There's Piano Book that has some great stuff. So there are some great, Heavyosity started doing free things. So I think if they are like already a huge library and they release something free, maybe look at it and see what it is. Like Heavyosity Foundations is a great free series of
Yeah.
instruments that there are some out there, but there's also some good unknown ones that are free. But just like you said, for the most part, other than like the big ones, you get what you pay for. But if it's like Keep Forest, Heavyosity, and that for a while I had like hundreds of free libraries. I have the most demos on Piano Book, so I'm going to be at 600 by the end of the week probably. Doing my 600th demo. The last question. Andrea said, what did you say? Funny, it's the second time I hear Michael's voice today. You just listened to his podcast this morning. This is not a question, but what podcast, do you have a podcast, Michael? Is it that people can check out?
I started a podcast, but I had to stop it, at least to make a pause for it because I had so much work. But the podcast is in German only, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, in German only. And it's mostly about music business. The moment we have 4 to 5 ones, and just Google for music podcast Michael Maas. That's the name, music podcast Michael Maas, but it's in German only. So yeah, maybe not that.
Which is another good point. This course is actually for me, it's the first course where I've seen that it's in English, not the first one in English. It's in English, it's in Spanish, and by the end of June, it will be in German. It's the first course I've seen in those 3 languages, and really accessible. I don't know if you have plans maybe with AI to use like captioning for other languages. Maybe that's one application of AI you can use with the course. But it is by the end of June, it'll be in German also, or in German, but you have English and Spanish. So
German is still in developing because we are fitting the course to the German market, something like insurances and all that kind of stuff. But English and Spanish is done. And I think it's the very first course at all in Spanish. There's no course like that at all existing. The course is like music business, music production, mixing, mastering, and all the business side of that. So if you want to save yourself easily 5 years of developing your career in that kind of area, it's like a no-brainer, because I was putting all my knowledge into that course. All the mistakes I did in the last 10 years. And so if you go the way I go with that course, you can easily save yourself like 5 years in progress, easily. Because I did so many mistakes at the start of my career, and you always have to fix that then, and it takes longer and longer, and how to find a resource for that, it's like a no-brainer, I would say. So yeah, but
and do you do any I know for a while you were doing like one-on-ones, like Patreon type things that people are diving deeper with you? Is that still, or is the course really the best way?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that course is existing, because I had private students since Corona, almost 20 every month. So I was meeting 20 students every month and was talking to them about music business and production. And I just realized that almost everyone has the same questions all the time. It's like, how can I get my music out to the industry? How can I submit to trailer libraries? What is trailer music at all? How can I compose it? What kind of genres are running most in television? So you can focus on those things that really generate money. How can I set up my pro in the most effective way? Most people don't know that you can assign yourself to multiple pros to different countries and areas. All those kind of things was appearing again and again, and I said, okay, it would make sense to put that knowledge and question people were asking me like for 3 years right now into one course, so everyone can profit from that. And it was just like, I'm totally honest, it was for me something for time saving, because it takes more time to repeat all the things again and again than putting it one time into a course. But actually, it was the opposite. It took me like, I'm still on a course and doing that since 9 months right now. So I'm still recording that. So it took me almost a year to do that.
I'll get to the last question, Marshawn, that you asked. One point you brought up is people ask you the same question. I remember the first question I asked you because I was getting approached by a library. This is not long after I saw the segment on, Mixing Night with Ken Lewis back in July 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ken Lewis, also incredible guy. And he's one half of Obscene Steelers. And he has over 100 gold platinum records to his name. Mix engineer. Learned a great deal from him and discovered Michael Maas through his Mixing Night platform. And the first question I remember asking you, I know you probably forget because everyone asks you a bunch of questions, but I asked you, a library had come to me and they were trying to take like 100% publishing. And I was like, in the pop music, hip hop space, like they always tell you like, never give up your publishing. And I'm like, no, I'm not giving it up for it. And you were like, no, that's a good deal. And then you laid out some of those, rights and contracts and legal things, which is also in the course that you can check out.
Exactly.
Some things to be on the lookout for when you get these agreements in front of you. But if they're taking publishing, that's okay, like in Syncret trailers, but you want to keep the writer share. And I was like, no, I don't want to sign with a company that wants to take all the money. And you're like, no, that's, you want them to have an investment and they want to work for you. So
here's the important thing, and actually a mistake I did at the beginning. I was reached out by library as you were, in the past saying, hey, we want to have the track for that library. And I didn't have any plan what they want from me. They said, hey, we want to have the publishing share, you get the writer's share, okay? What's that? Actually, today we know that's called publishing. Publishing is the part of the publishing share royalties. So the publisher gets some royalties as well. They need to make some money, as well. And the writer, the composer gets the writer's share, which is also part of the publishing. So publishing is called the entire pot of royalties, which is split it into publishing share and writer share. So now you get an email by a publisher. I just had that like today, like four hours ago. Someone was asking me, hey, BBC reached out to me, say they want to have the publishing. I said, okay, what do you mean with publishing? Do you mean publishing share or writer share? She said, I don't know what it is. I said, okay. And she has that course over there. I said, hey, girl, please do the course. Finish the course. It's all explained in there. Just joking. It's actually that girl who was bringing me into the video game job there. So was just joking. So if you don't know your rights and what people are talking about, and they realize you don't know what they are talking about, they won't work with you. Because they think, okay, that guy or that girl doesn't have a plan for what he or she is doing. So it's very important to know what people are talking about in the pop music industry area, as equally in the production music, trailer music area. Because then you are reliable. Because if you ask 10,000 questions, hey, what's publishing, what's writer share, you can do that. But the publisher is so busy simply with 10,000 other tasks. I can speak easily about it because I'm a publisher. I'm running a publishing company by myself. I like to help people then if they are asking me, but I simply don't have the time. So what am I doing? I do a logical step. I say, okay, do I have the time to invest my time as a publisher in that composer who has no plan compared to that other composer who knows everything about music rights and writer share, publisher share, and knows how the usually shares are going on. I choose that composer who knows what's going on because it saves myself time as a company. And that's how a company is thinking. That's the business side of music you need to realize. So there's not much place to guess. There's place to asking questions, but people prefer to work with people which have a plan already from what they are talking about, simply. There are different libraries out there. Beginner libraries which like to work with people from the start, but it's for everyone easier working with people who know at least the business basics. And I didn't know them before. I had to learn them by myself. And that's the reason it took me like almost 7 years to go, or 8 or 9 years, let me count, 5 years to go full-time in that job. So if I would have had a similar course like that, who shows me how to get faster in the industry, how to avoid those mistakes and know what I'm talking about, I could be maybe 5 years advanced than I am right now. Yeah. But again, this way is there to make mistakes. That's not a big thing. Everyone is doing mistakes. Everyone is learning from that. So give yourself the place to make mistakes, try to avoid them. But if you do some, learn from that, adjust, go on. And that's the whole process. And music business, and sync licensing, and then everything else. We are no AI, no machine, so
No machine.
it's normal. Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's do a rapid fire. Marshawn had asked some of your favorite VST, or what are some good recommendations for VST libraries for composing trailer music. So I'm gonna just give you a category, and if you could just shout out the first thing that comes to mind, or your favorite, or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
So let's start with strings.
Strings. Long strings, Metropolis Arc 1 for the lows and for the mids. For the violins, I'm using Adio Acitato Grandiose. It's called Adio Acitato Grandiose. $50 or 30, something like that. That has one patch in there. It's called Mancini. I think that's a composer, Mancini.
Yeah.
It just has like a bowing sound and stuff like that. It's like moving. It's not, like sus-fading all the time. It's like, that's my magic in terms of long strings.
And you actually made me forget that I actually have that plugin. So
yeah,
I
recommended that to you. I think.
Forgot about that one. That was great. How about brass?
Brass. Metropolis Arc 1, low brass, combined chimbassis, horns, and trombones for the low area. So for the low brass. And actually, if you play the chimbassis, you can play them pretty high in the octave for melodies.
And also pay attention to the answers here, because you heard Metropolis Arc 1, so it's a package, so you can get different sounds in there.
Oh yeah, it's from orchestral tools. Those are from orchestral tools, yeah.
How about percussion?
Percussion. Epic drums is damage 2 for me. Hard-hitting trailer drums like those metallic drums is Verbum from Keep Forest. If I want to have fast-paced 16 notes, or maybe even faster, something like that, there's something called, I think, Storm. I don't remember anymore the name. You can do the same with damage too. It's like toms.
Storm drum?
Storm drums or something like
that. Or Strike Force.
Strike Force it is.
Strike Force.
Yeah. But very hard to handle. Strike Force is not easy to handle, actually.
And I'm taking notes.
Damage 2.
Sort of. Damage 2 is where it's at until they come out with Damage 3. And like you, I use, it's hard for me to get out of the default Armageddon preset in Damage 2. What about drum set? So this is like when you do your rock drums.
Oh yeah, that's my special sauce. Everyone is asking me about my rock drums. One Patreon came to me. Let me check for that here right now. He said, "Hey, how many drums are you layering there?" I said, "It's only one patch."
One patch.
I'm lazy. So the library is called. Oh, let me check right now. I always forget it. Musical sampling plugins. It's a small boutique library. Musical sampling plugins. And the rock drums are called Boutique Drums Medusa. It's so punchy, especially that snare. And it's made by a trailer music composer. So, yeah. I did multiple rock trailer tracks which are sounding like John Wick. And I called them John Zick, and Killed John Wick, and all that, all related to John Wick. And it's just like crazy how that rock drum sound. I don't use anything else. But that's everything included in the course, I think, also.
Cool. How about risers?
Risers. I got a favorite folder of my favorite risers. So I don't have to search for them all the time, So what I did the folder on my PC, which is called Favorite SFX. And once I found a favorite SFX in a plugin, I copy-paste it over there as a sample, simply. So I can grab them all the time. So that's time-saving. You definitely should have something like that for trailer effects. Risers, downers, drop-downs, alarm sounds, etc. Copy-paste them into a folder. Risers. I'm using risers out of ADO Hybrid Tools 2. Downer, I have 3 favorite downers. One is bespoke made by a sound designer. The other is from a patch from, the company is called Output, and the plugin is called Arcade. And there's one, it's called Lines, which is like a plugin for a special thing, I think it's called, what is it called? Multiverse or something. Something for trailer-ish things, Took it out from there. So that's a very important thing. My trailer SFX are from multiple places, but I picked them so carefully that, no joke, I can listen to a trailer without any music I hear if they're using my track just by the SFX. I had it. I had it right now in that Vietnam fighting movie I posted. I don't Wagner or something it's called. I don't know. And I didn't even remember the name of the track because I have 1,400. But I hear the combination of risers, downers, and hits, and the only one who's using those in combination is me.
Wow.
So you can develop that a little bit. Pick with the years your favorite sound design effects, and I'm just using them. I don't grab every time a different sound design effect. Maybe sometimes, But for trailer hits, risers, downers, etc., I'm using mostly the same. That's just SFX in the background. It's not music,
Yeah. Wow.
Now Marcus Manderson is shocked.
No, I got 4 more for you.
Yeah.
Whoosh hits, like whoosh sound effects.
Keep forward.
Yeah. Anything keep forward is.
Like anything keep forward is.
Yeah.
There's two things about keep forward. They are so great. Everything is great what they do, but the bad thing is everyone can hear that it's keep forward. So people are pretty fast used to that. Multiple music supervisors told me, hey, can you please use not keep forward? We hear those sounds all the time. It happened. So they are so great, that everyone is using their stuff. So people are used to that pretty fast. So yeah. Good and bad.
Let's go to piano.
Native Instrument Noir. You know that?
Yep.
Alicia Keys. So the Alicia Keys Native Instruments piano plugin. And there's one trailer plugin from Audio Imperia. I think it's called Gravitas. I can write it in the chat. Gravitas from Audio Imperia. And those are made for trailer-ish things, ambient like, not usual pianos.
Cool. 2 more for you. Synths, like synthesizer. Yeah.
Dark Zebra from UHE. Avenger from, I think, company is called APS or something. The synth is called Avenger synth, like that movie Avenger. WePro 1, WePro 5 from UHE. Serum and Reactor. Those are a lot already. So you can have so many Omnisphere. That's another one.
Oh, wow. I just found one today that someone reminded me that I had from Keep Force, and it's called SCSS, like 15D. It's a random name. I think it was sampled from like a Yamaha thing. And they were like, this is great for building like leads and stuff. And I was like, anything Keep Force. And I forgot I had this. But it's like SCSS 5D. I don't know how to say it exactly, but
I don't know.
There's another one. So anything Keep Force. Last but not least, this is the ultimate sound in trailer music that we all love and hear. There's one that I know you probably won't say. I'm gonna share it with you after you go over yours. But let's talk about Brahms.
Yeah. I'm using only one Bram all the time in my tracks, mostly, and it's from Keep Forward. Let me check. The plugin is called Acer X Classic Trailers Toolkit, and actually it's an instrument. It's called Toolkit Synth. Okay, synth menu. So it's a synth. You can play in every key. That's important to me because I can fit in the Bram to the key, and so that synth, if you play it, it sounds like a Bram.
Wow.
So that one.
So it's not actually a Bram sound. I like that. There's for those who are here, I'm gonna see if I can save the chat. Everything that he listed, I put in the chat right here, so you can see all of the cheat code for Michael Maas's plugin list. Thank you, Marshawn, for that. Let me find. There's one I want to share with you. I'll probably share it in the group. So for those who are interested in trailer music specifically, there is an incredible group on Facebook, other than Syncrets to Success. There's one called the Trailer Music Composers Group, and basically every trailer that is released, the composer is in this group. And people ask, like, who did this trailer? And then someone speaks up, like, I did this thanks to whatever company. The Brahm I want to share with you all here, but Michael, you probably heard of it. Are you familiar with pianobook.co.uk?
Yeah.
So you probably have the world's biggest Brahm. Do you have that?
No, I don't have it.
All right. I'm going to send you here's a YouTube sort of blurb on that, and then the actual library itself. I got to find where the link is for the library. but it was part of their, I think, a Christmas special they did last year. And I've been trying to keep it under wraps, but you're going to be the first non-self composer I'm going to share it with. And it's just basically people in the world created their own Brahms, and the team at Spitfire Audio and Piano Book put it into this plugin. So I would love to, once you dive in, love to get your thoughts on there. It probably there's 2 different libraries. I think they use Contact. And I think there are maybe 50, 60 Brahms in there. So it's fun to dive in on that.
Also something important maybe. A Brahm is nothing else than low brass combined with synth. Maybe some distortion on that. So you can easily do your own Brahm if you have something like a low brass patch, something like Chimbassis, low horns, low register, not high. Okay?
Yeah.
Combine that with a kind of synth. That's not so easy to find. It needs to fit to the brass, it needs to be organic. Both have to fit to each other. Play one note like really lows on the chimbassis, trombones, and horns, and combine it with a synth or maybe multiple synth, and then work on that a little bit with EQ, distortion, but not that much distortion, okay? Stuff like that. And you can easily, that's then called sound design if you're creating your own patches or maybe your own Brahms. That works as well. So if you don't have money to buy Brahm sample SFX libraries, you can also create it by yourself.
Yeah.
But here's the time saver thing again. If you do it by yourself, it takes you much more time than buying a sample by someone who's only doing trailer SFX for people.
Yeah.
And you don't have to guarantee, if you do it by yourself, that it sounds like trailer. Because people who are starting and creating stuff like that, usually it doesn't sound like trailer. I can tell you that. It sounds like maybe, I don't know, like fart or so, So not trailerish,
Yeah. Sound Iron actually has a great part library called Flatulence. It's serious. But talking about those sounds, in addition to the Sync Music Business course, Michael also does sell sound packs. So if you're looking for some sound effects and sound design, and of course you have 11 hours, 10 hours to submit to the contest, where you can get some great sound effects that Michael and his team have designed for the trailer contest.
By the way, you can also simply download those trailer SFX from the contest. You don't have to necessarily join the contest. So you get those trailer SFX for free. And actually for people who want to have something for free, that's perfect, because those SFX are made by a professional sound designer, especially for that course. Okay.
Yeah. And one thing that I did notice, we mentioned earlier about looking at the EULA. If you don't know what the EULA is, EULA, that is the end user license agreement. And it does help to look at that, because some packs might say that if you submit music and you submit stems to a library, they might not allow you to use that stem individually for, like, when you send it to an editor or something, because they own the right to that sound. In this particular pack, I noticed that Michael mentioned that you can use the sound as a stem and send it, as long as the stem is part of an overall production. And you don't see that a lot in the libraries where they let you use the stem separately.
That's
Go ahead.
I had that conversation with my Patreons multiple times. So there's a legal gray area, I would think. So if you buy a license from a plugin, and people who are running the plugin company telling you cannot use that separated in a stem, that doesn't make sense to me. Because you're buying a plugin because you want to use that plugin in a context of music. And as long as you use a plugin or a sample, even a sample, not sampled by another recording, but a sample sound in the context of a music track, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, by the way, music is not, no one can really say is music 3 seconds long or 5 or 10 seconds long. But if it's in a music track, everyone recognizes it's a music track, you are safe. Because the only thing you cannot do is selling SFX straight away again as SFX. That's not possible. But if you're, those libraries telling you you can use their VSTs, etc., in the context of music, which you're doing. You're delivering later stems to the publisher because they're requesting it. What's happening after that, after the process, you don't have any control to that. And if I'm buying a license from a library, I don't want to layer that sound of that library because the sound is great. So that's a little bit strange if you exclude that in an Euler, so kind of like you need to layer everything you're using. It's like you are buying a cake and they're saying, hey, you can only eat that cake if you need another cake on top of that. That doesn't make sense, So that's a gray area. But if you use that SFX sample pack, you can use that in any type of musical context. You cannot sell it for sure, but you don't have to layer that in stems. It doesn't make sense. That's
Cool. We'll end on this one. I keep saying we're going to end. We're definitely going to end on this one. The last one, signature sound. So for those who don't know, with trailer music, there's always this. We want to have the signature sound that no one's ever heard before. It's never existed before. How do you go about? What library do you use? How do you create the signature sound? Do you layer things? This could be an element, it could be a vocal thing, it could be a synth. But what is your approach to creating?
One of the most best signature sounds you get in sample tracks libraries. I just wrote it in check, sample tracks. It's an Italian sound designer. So they are offering sample packs usually. So wave files, which is most best to track into a DAW project. So you don't have to open all the time Contact or so. It's called sample tracks. Pretty great and very cheap. It's not that expensive. Keep Forward, definitely. Yeah, those two are my favorites. And then there's a thing if you do your own sound design. Something like, no joke, let me show it to you. I'm recording my stuff with a mobile recorder here, like even knocking or stuff like that. I have so many own sound design things, which you can do easily with a $80 thing here. And actually, I'm recording all my sound design, which I'm selling on the shop, etc., with my mobile recorder, and it sounds perfect. You don't need big gear anymore to, record your own sound design.
Yep. And nobody has those sounds. We are getting close to 2 hours. I know this was a lot of time. Michael could have made 5 trailers in that time.
Yeah, no, not really. No.
Thank you, man, for your time. What is like one last gem other than telling people to check out the course? I'm going to drop the course information one more time here. We can get 30% off until June 9th. Is there another gem, another sort of Syncret to success? See what I did there? That you can share with people here and on the recording. We will upload the recording. I'll upload it to the Syncrets to Success Facebook group. So if you're not part of the group, it'll be there. I will share it with Michael. He can share it wherever he wants to share it. So you have access to the recording when I get it from Zoom. But what is the one final Syncret to success that you want to share, at least today, to end this conversation?
Yeah. So as you can see, as my way was in the past, I had a different main job, etc. It's totally possible. I started with that with 30. I'm right now 40. Okay. I started with production music, trailer music with 30. It's totally possible to achieve that in a few years. So it doesn't matter if you're 60, 18, or 30. It's possible to getting from a really boring, bad paid main job to a full-time composer with a pretty big salary. It's possible because I'm the proof for that, But this is possible if you're willing to put the work into that, If you think it's easy to handle and it's a matter of weeks or maybe a few years, that's totally wrong. But if you are addicted to music and you're willing to put the work into that, you maybe don't go party, you go into your studio and work there. I was partying all the time by myself at those times, but I worked all the time in the studio as well. And then if you're willing to put the work into that, you have almost a guarantee to succeed, So never give up. Go that way of hard work and chase that dream. And one day you're going to achieve that. You're going to reach that. Because I'm sitting here now in my studio. I do nothing else than music. No, I can decide when I go to vacation. I don't have a boss anymore. I'm my own boss right now, I can do my own things, simply. So it's totally worth it to put so much work into that so you can achieve that as well. And it's more than possible, believe me. Everyone who's telling you it's not possible, put them to a side,
Yeah, living the dream. Thank you. Final round of applause for Michael Maas. Thank you for everyone else who also took time out their day, 2 hours to be here. We'll do more incredible chats, hopefully, even if they're half as good as this one. But stay tuned in the Facebook group for more. Definitely get in on the contest. If you're watching the recording, the contest is probably over, but the contest deadline is tonight, 11:59 p.m. California time, PST. So get those sound effects, get in the contest, join the Syncrets to Success Facebook group, check out the Sync Music Business course. You get 30% off using the code Syncrets to Success 30 by June 9th. After that, you got to pay full price, but definitely check it out. Thank you again, Michael Maas, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. And everyone else, have a great weekend. This is a holiday weekend in the US. Have a safe holiday weekend.
Same here.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. So we will see you all. All right. Peace.
Thank you for having me. Have a nice day. Okay. See ya. Bye bye.